In 1977, a shortage of coffee changed the world, but it would take at least a decade for the effects to actually be noticed. At the beginning of the 1970s, it looked like the decade was going to be one of growth and stability for the German Democratic Republic. But in the fall of 1977, the Ministry for State Security, the Stasi, East Germany's feared secret police, warned the government that the country was on the verge of revolt. The trust lost in this incident would never be restored. So how did coffee help to spell East Germany's doom? From the beginning, East Germany did not have access to the same level of luxury goods as the non-Soviet bloc West. Immediately after the Second World War and through the 1950s, the Soviet Union supplied most of the coffee in the German Democratic Republic. As East Germany became more autarkic from the Soviet Union, so followed its need to supply its coffee independently. The average East German coffee household expenditure was twice the amount spent on shoes and equal to the amount spent on furniture. Side note, that is one of my favorite metrics of all time. This accounted for 4% of all retail sales in the GDR. As the East German state attempted to gain coffee independence, they also pushed coffee as a core part of East German identity. Coffee allowed workers to be more productive, which contributed to a more prosperous society, while maintaining an aesthetic of an invigorated society. This aesthetic carried over into leisure as well. Coffee was a place where workers were allowed to express themselves freely without the expectation that the state was listening in. There was a problem though. Because it was a scarce resource, it was expensive to import. But because of its importance, the Socialist Unity Party, the SAD, who were effectively the state, saw a bargain that could be had from it. By being able to provide a scarce resource, it gave them legitimacy. But to gain this legitimacy, they were constantly fighting back against the black market. The black market in East Germany was complex. Officially, any interaction with the black market was illegal. Unofficially, everybody knew that it existed, and the Socialist Unity Party wasn't happy with it. But it offered a window into what scarce resources would engender them support if they were able to provide them. Even before the Cold War, coffee in Germany was scarce. The blends were often not real coffee, but blends of varying quality. This continued on after the post-war division and a fight between the Socialist Unity Party and the people of East Germany. The SAD wanted to be the ones to provide coffee. The public wanted more of it, and at a better quality. Thus developed the black market that the SAD was constantly trying to stay ahead of. When luxury coffee was offered through official stores, East Germans had their families in the West mail them gift packages of it. And in response to that, East Germany tried to set up their own mail order system where people in the West could specifically buy things for people in the East. One of the reasons for the Berlin Wall was that the SAD couldn't regulate the black market. It allowed goods to flood in from the West that they were trying to provide, while allowing goods from the East with subsidized prices to flow out. But by 1973, things in East Germany had stabilized and things were, well, good, at least according to the CIA. The erection of the Berlin Wall enabled the government to establish firm control over the society and proceed with overdue economic reforms, which within a decade provided the population with the highest standard of living in Eastern Europe. Further, the SAD had achieved a Faustian bargain. A black market where people had to depend upon relationships with each other to get access to goods meant that the populace actively grew in solidarity with each other. This was an ideal that the SAD was continually finding ways to get East Germans to do more than just pay lip service to. The economy was set up to meet the needs of the people with the promise of one day meeting their wants, and it was a struggle to even achieve this. But the average East German citizen was willing to deal with the shortages because it was something everybody was enduring together. In short, East Germany had entered a period of political stability with a relatively high standard of living, and the shortcomings of the system reinforced the ideals that the system preached. It was precarious and it wasn't ideal, but it was working. Sure, it could take much less than a global catastrophe to shake it, but one of those weren't right around the corner. Two events at the beginning of the 1970s shook the East German economy to its core: the 1973 oil shock and a failed coffee crop in Brazil. These events compounded in the fragile East German economy. To import goods from the West, such as oil, they needed to use Western currency. So as the price of oil skyrocketed, so did the rate in which East Germany drained its reserves of Western currency. Luxury goods, like coffee, became prohibitively expensive in an economy that was planned out to the penny. Before the failed coffee crop, East Germany spent roughly 150 million marks per year on the import of coffee. After the crisis began, this had skyrocketed to 700 million. The SAD was faced with a dilemma: money for oil or marks for mocha. They attempted to split the difference. The only blends imported would be the higher end blends that the party leadership used. Lower end blends were either eliminated completely or the recipe was adjusted to use less real coffee. Further, certain blends would only be available in intershops, which required the use of Western currency, which would help the state refill its currency coffers. The SAD did not expect these mixes to be popular, but there was that silver lining. Citizens would be able to practice solidarity with each other because we were all suffering suffering together, and everybody should understand this. East Germans rejected the coffee mixes in a way the state was not prepared for. In a report to SAD leadership on September 1st, 1977, the Ministry for State Security stated that the quality and price of new coffee mixes are rejected by broad circles of the population. Complaints recorded by the Stasi included critical indications of taste and a first indication that the new mixes were unable to be processed to the full filtering capability in household machines. The coffee mixes were breaking the machines. The Stasi further expressed in this report that workers resented party officials requesting austerity for workers while still importing expensive Western cars for officials. Additionally, Stasi reports say that citizens did not believe the information policy. Far from just rejecting the new coffee mixes, citizens were rejecting the SAD's handling of the crisis. By September 12th, the frustration over austerity moved to unrest. A Stasi report stated that in discussions among workers, skeptical, resigned, pessimistic, and negative opinions up to aggressive arguments become clear. While blaming Western media for this development, the Stasi also states that there are rumors of warning strikes. These strikes would demand that their wages be paid in Western currency so that they could shop at the intershops. In relation, the report states growing frustration with the expansion of intershop stores, while the simultaneous elimination of low-priced coffees and the limited supply in restaurants. Workers also believed that the classless German society was now stratified with three distinct categories. Those without Western currency who would be forced to endure austerity, those with access to Western currency who could shop at intershops, and privileged persons and high officials who drove expensive Western cars and weren't affected by austerity. These last two categories were contrasted with the common worker and pensioner who have returned to the point where begging letters have been sent to West Germany for coffee. Something else was brewing in these reports. Workers were now vilifying SAD party officials. The Stasi reported that derogatory terms for the coffee mixes were circulating, and that leading officials were vilified. Further, workers now believed that strikes were taking place all over the country. East Germany was on the precipice of a revolt. The SAD would finally act on 23 September. The price of the lowest quality coffee mixes was further reduced, and a communication was published on the coffee shortage explaining the reasoning behind the austerity measures. As the Stasi reported on the situation, the public accepted the reasoning while noting they should have been told sooner. While the Stasi expressed optimism that the unrest was now contained, it would continue on further into October, with workers continuing to be asked to be paid in Western currency. Shaken by how quickly this unrest developed, East Germany decided they needed to secure their supply chain for the future. East Germany would effectively bootstrap Vietnam's coffee industry, providing materials and training in exchange for a secured supply chain. Yet the damage done to the trust between the East German people and the SAD continued to reverberate. While Vietnam would thrive as the second biggest coffee exporter in the world, East Germany would cease to exist on October 3rd, 1990.